Hello and welcome. I'm Anita Bozer, and this is the 6th installment of the Undulation book read-along, where I'm reading through my book, Undulation, Relieve Stiffness, and Feel Young. And this time we are doing the chapter to counteract aging. I'd like to start by reading you the preface to this chapter. Up until now, I haven't done any reading, but this time I really like what's here, so I'm going to just read straight from it. To grow in age is desirable and inevitable. To become decrepit and feeble is not. And I think that's something important to remember. We do want to get older. We do want to have extra years in our life, right? It's better than not. But what we think of when we get older is this person who isn't able to move very well. And that's what we want to work with. We don't want to be feeble, and we don't have to. While the course we take as we get older is something determined by fate, sometimes we have control over a large portion of our destiny. Stiffness, even for those who have arthritis, can be diminished. Strength can be maintained, although it does require more dedicated effort as we get older. To feel younger, we need to move like we did when we were children. The following undulation exercises are designed to recreate the awareness, fluidity, and playfulness of youth. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is what are things that we did when we were young. So here I am on the floor. That is something that kids do a lot. They spend a lot of time on the floor, and that adds a lot of flexibility into the joints. However, the joints have to be adaptable for that. So if you're not used to being on the floor, don't spend a lot of time on the floor. And you might not be able to see, but I have blankets on the floor. I have a great big pillow that I'm sitting on. If you have tight hamstrings or a sore low back, it's always good to spend the time that you have on the floor with your hips lifted. That gives more adaptability. So just spending a little bit of time on the floor and getting up off of the floor. Those are good things to do to help us feel younger. Maybe not at first. You might feel a little crickety and old as you're getting up and down off the floor. But if you do it every day for a little bit, then you definitely will feel better after a time. I did a YouTube video with my grandnephews, and we played with getting up and down off the floor, and I have a little tutorial as to how to do it. So that's a different video. But let's get into some of our undulations. One of the things that kids have are very supple spines, and that's part of what undulation helps you to develop is a supple spine. And one way you can do it is with the feel the spine undulation. And with this undulation, you just use your hands and feel one segment of your spine. So if we start from the neck, you can start from your low back, but here I'm going to start from the neck. If you feel just the base of your skull, just wiggle it around and feel the movement. Ignore the little creaky noises it makes. And then move your fingers down a little bit until you can feel the next bony bump. And in that segment, do the same thing. Just wiggle around little by little. And each time going down a little bit, to see if you can get each and every segment to move. So there's a segment that doesn't move as good on me. So I want to spend a little bit of extra time just getting it to move this way and that. And when you can, then go down to the next segment. Ooh, this one's even stiffer. So when we are stiff, we tend to not move from those places. And this reminds us to get each of those little segments moving. And when each segment moves better, move on to the next one. When the whole spine, oh, look at that one. That one's so stiff when I try to move it. Can you see my whole body moving? Okay, so let me just try to get this one place. Oh, it's really hard for me. If your hands get sore, just switch off hands. And if you have somebody who can help you, it's awfully nice if they'll touch each segment. There it's starting to loosen up a bit. And then down to the next one. Oh, that one's stuck too. What can I do to get that place to move? Okay, so you don't necessarily need to see me loosen up my whole spine, right? But it gives you an idea that there are stiff places and we're just working to get them moving again. Don't let any tension come into your hands or arms. If you can't lift your arms this high, you really will have to ask somebody to help you get there. There we go. It's starting to move just a little bit. You can tell I don't practice this before I record, right? You can also start at the base of your spine doing the same thing, finding a bony segment, getting it to move this way and that, and then moving up your spine. Okay? The second undulation, I'm not necessarily going in order. The next undulation I want to show you is crawling. Of course, when we were kids, we crawled a lot. And crawling is great for your coordination, especially doing what they call cross crawl or contralateral, where you move your left hand in your right knee and your right hand in your left knee, getting that opposite body movement, which you can play with. But in terms of the undulation, what we're working with here, I do have blankets down on my wood floors, so be careful that you have blankets. Something soft. So you want to lift a leg and bend your spine. Right? And then if you want to add challenge, you can lift the opposite arm, right? And as you lift the arm, notice there's a tendency for the spine to arch. These are movements we lose when we're adults because we're not getting on our hands and knees. And then you can crawl along. Again, trying to do. And crawling backwards is good too. So crawling, building that into your day is a good thing to do just to keep that youthfulness through your body. Let me cheat and look in the book here. Make sure we're not missing any. Okay, so now I'm going to move the computer so I can stand up and show you some standing undulations. We have crawling, and then what do you do? When you're a kid, after you learn to crawl, well, then you learn to walk. But it's a very different walk than what we do as adults. So let's add some undulations into our walking. Here we go. So when you're walking, we want to get our hips to move. Putting your hands on your hips, as you take a step, let your weight shift from side to side. Right? So just loosening up the hips. We don't want to walk this way. This is just a little undulation. And when you walk, your shoulders, want your shoulders to glide. So as you take a step, swing your shoulders. You can walk forward and back. Again, ignore the little crunchy sounds. The more you move, the fewer crunchy sounds there will be. Now add those together. See if you can go from side to side with your arms and your hips. This is that contralateral movement again. And we don't want to walk down the street this way, or maybe, who knows, kids are more free. If they felt like it, they would, right? And getting that movement into your spine as well. And then just notice how much freedom that's created in your body. The next undulation in this section is follow the music. And this one, you'd have to find your own music because everybody likes to dance to something different. Maybe James Brown's I Feel Good, that's great music. I'd be dancing to some Soundgarden. Everybody has what they like best. Maybe some Pearl Jam, that might not be your thing. So pick whatever music you like and then let your body just move to the music. And that's why I want you to pick what you like, because your body will move to that music in a way that's comfortable. That's part of why we choose music. It's because we resonate with the rhythm in it, and let your body take that through. The last undulation in this section, I think, is one of the most fun and funny undulations I've developed, and it's called tailbone penmanship. I forgot to bring my exercise ball home. That's the best thing to do this on, is sitting on a big, round, bouncy exercise ball, because it lets your pelvis have the most freedom of motion. I'm going to just work on a regular chair, but the other thing you could do is you could get on your hands and knees. It's fun to do this undulation with your pelvis very free, but that might be a little bit too much to begin with. Let me move the chair here. A little moving around. Let's see if I have this right. Okay, so here we have, can't really see my pelvis. Let's try that. There we go. You need to see more of my pelvis than my head anyway. So imagine that your tailbone is a laser pointer and it's pointing straight down at the ground. Or if in your hands and knees, it's pointing on the wall behind you or the floor behind you. And for those of us who learned cursive writing, we're going to do great big capital letters, starting with an A. I had a lot of practice. My maiden name was Anderson, so there were a lot of big capital A's in my penmanship, but now we're going to use our pelvis to draw rather than our hands, right? So great big capital A. So I'm going to swivel my pelvis around like my laser pointer is drawing an A. Nice big whoop-de-doo on the end. And then a big capital B. So I like to do big whoop-de-doo, big circle around, top of the B, nice big loop in the center, and then around. And then capital C. I like, again, a little loop-de-doo. You don't have to do the loop-de-doos. Coming around to the side and around. Capital D, which goes the other way. That's why I like the alphabet, because you're going one way and then the other. I'm making nice big letters. Your pelvis might not want to move this much. That's fine. Just do what you can do in a pain-free range, right? So working through the alphabet, which gives you something structured to do. Here I am doing a great big capital G. But at some point, you know, and an H has some straight lines. There aren't too many straight lines in capital cursive. But trying to get your pelvis to go through the different ranges of motion. And you can feel where it's stuck, where it doesn't want to move. And then you can work with that motion. And notice how much it frees up your low back. So just to repeat, we have here in the to counteract aging segment, we have feel your spine, and you can start from the top of your spine like I showed, or you can start from the bottom. Working, it's really hard to get these places in between, which again, it's helpful to have a friend. Maybe you can do this one with a friend and trade places. You know, you don't have to use a finger, you can use your thumb to get different places moving. But trying to get each segment of your spine mobile, that will open up a lot of movement for you. And then walking, if you walk, incorporating more undulations, if you take it as an exercise walking down your hallway, then when you walk on a regular basis, you'll have more freedom of movement. Adding crawling, which also gets you down on the ground, crawling a little bit each day or getting down on the ground. And as you're crawling, not being so stiff, but adding in that motion through your spine. Follow the music. Great to put on a piece of music and just let your body respond to the music in any way that feels good. And then our good old tailbone penmanship, which you can do sitting on a chair, an exercise ball is better, or on your hands and knees. So I hope you feel younger after doing some undulations. Feel free to leave me a comment and let me know how it works for you. And we'll be coming back in 2 weeks to do the 7th installment. And I don't remember what we're doing next. Let me look it up. The next installment is for better posture. So we'll be doing that in 2 weeks. Please feel free to join me.